McLaren P1 is without question one of the most extraordinary road cars the world has ever seen. Its hybrid twin-turbo V8 engine produces more power and torque than anyone dreamed possible 20 years ago, when its predecessor was born. And its chassis, aided by an extensive aerodynamic package and hydraulically controlled height-adjustable suspension, is arguably even more advanced in both its design and, as we'll discover, its ability to keep the P1 glued to the road. This then is the world's first and possibly last full video road test of the McLaren P1. So sit back, buckle up and enjoy the ride. Test 1. How fast can the P1 accelerate from 0 to 190 miles per hour? And how long does it take to reel in the world's quickest hot hatch, the Mercedes A45 AMG, after a 5-second head start?
So I'm going to use launch control. You've got to be in first gear, foot on the brake, then you just press the launch control button. Launch mode active. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 123, 135, 150, 160. There goes the Mercedes. 180, 190. 200 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour, just like that. Oh my goodness me, it makes the hair on the back of my neck go absolutely stiff. Flipping heck, this is such a fast car. Woo! The weirdest thing is that it just does not stop accelerating. I was calling the numbers in 10 mile an hour chunks, and I couldn't actually call them fast enough. Me, this thing is fast. And what really blows my mind is that when you get to the end and you stand on the brakes and you're doing, well, 198, 199 miles an hour, it absolutely throws these claws out into Mother Earth. You just stop. The brakes in this car are, if anything, even more impressive than the performance. And that is saying something.
Next test, handling. Venue, Castle Combe, one of the fastest, scariest race circuits in the whole of Great Britain.
Flipping hell, this thing feels so lively.
We put the P1 in its most aggressive setting to test it at Castle Combe. That way you get the full aerodynamic benefits of 600 kilograms of downforce, plus the most dynamic responses from the hydraulic suspension. We also turned the traction control and ESP systems off, and then swallowed a very big brave pill.
Wow, the acceleration is mental, the brakes are awesome, the steering is beautifully accurate, and the lick that you go at things around this circuit is bonkers. Flaming heck. That reached an outrageous speed down there. I do think it's too stiff in race mode to deal with Castle Combe. I actually think it might be faster around here in sport. it's just so bumpy. Because I've got all the traction and everything turned off, it's just wanting to light the rear end up all the time, which is fantastically exciting. But it's also slightly petrifying as well.
We didn't time the P1 at Castle Combe because the health and safety meanies wouldn't let us. But we did time it around our regular handling circuit at Myra as part of this road test. And sure enough, it smashed our outright lap record by well over a second, beating the Bugatti Veyron Supersport's time in the process by a vaguely ridiculous 2.5 seconds.
Okay, let's try some silly stuff. Oh, that is just lovely to be able to do that in someone else's McLaren P1. It's really nicely balanced though. There is no slippy diff in a P1, but they have this torque vectoring system, and what you can see, you can drift it to your heart's content basically. There's just a bit of understeer to push through because it's really greasy on this track, but once you get through that and once you get the rear tyre lit, oh, it's lovely, it really is. It's just to try and describe what's going on. I'm in second gear, then I give it a bit of a poke with the throttle. It understeers just a little bit to begin with, and then as soon as traction breaks at the rear, you get sideways, very, very sideways. I think it's time to go and see what the P1 is like on a beautiful Welsh mountain road. There is no way I'm going to drive this car anything like as rapidly as it is capable of going on a public road like this, because, oh, I don't know, I mean, mistakes just come flying towards you faster than you can believe it, and other road users just look at you like you've dropped out of the sky if you open the throttle wide in this thing for more than about 2 seconds. But look, here is just a little burst of what it feels like to slightly nail it in a McLaren P1 over a beautiful Welsh mountain road. Oh, I mean, that is just nuts acceleration, absolutely nuts. It just feels like the rear tyres are chewing into and then spitting out great big chunks of tarmac. I really, really love the steering in the P1. There is so much feel coming at you. And once you've got a little bit of heat into the front P0 Corsas, the front end is just pinned, no matter where you aim it or almost how fast you aim it. They're just, on the road there is not any understeer at all. The traction is insane, quite frankly. Oh, and the brakes are lovely too. Really, really lovely feel through the pedal and just titanic stopping power. The gearbox is also really nice too. Unlike some rivals, the paddles themselves are actually attached to the wheel, so that when you turn the wheel, you turn the paddles too. Ferrari don't like that. They think it's unsafe or not advisable, but I actually really like it, because when you start to get a bit jiggy with some opposite lock, you can, I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but you can actually shift up during a slide, and the only reason you can do that is because the paddles are right there, and I love that about the P1. God, this car just feels so special to be driving on the public road. It really does. I mean, everyone that you encounter just smiles at you and gives you the thumbs up. No antagonism whatsoever have I experienced being displayed towards the P1, and that's great. It's a sort of lovely, warm feeling that people display towards it. But it is quite intimidating just to bumble around in amongst ordinary traffic. I mean, it costs €1 million, £866,000, and it's got 903 horsepower. And it sounds and goes like that. What a machine! I'm not sure about the ride quality. I think it's a bit too fruity for your average UK road. Even when you dial it back and put it in normal, it's quite hard and it's quite uncomfortable. When you run it over a cat's eye on a motorway, for example, you get this almighty thump that just goes through the whole front frame. And I think that's basically what you end up with a carbon tug, fundamentally. But what that then gives the rest of the car is just this incredible sense of stiffness and control and just ultra precision.
We drove the McLaren P1 for 3 days straight and on all sorts of different roads to bring you this test, during which time we learned many things about it. We realised not just how stupefyingly fast in a straight line it is, and how well it stops and steers and goes round corners, but we also discovered just how usable it is on the public road. We also worked out that it can do things to your mind and to the world's quickest hot hatchback that 10 years ago would have seemed inconceivable from a mere road car. Most of all though, we realised that in the P1, McLaren has produced not just one of the fastest, but perhaps the greatest supercar of all time. And that's an achievement of which us Brits should be, and indeed are, rather proud.